Hey, everybody, welcome. It is Tuesday, and it is a Talking Tuesday. I am here. I have made it. I am your host, Chesh, and welcome. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I hope you enjoyed our content from yesterday, which was all art. There is more content coming out tomorrow. If you missed our Unnamed Tavern, we're getting that. Patreons and members both already have access to that video, and another one that is coming out on Thursday. Also, I will be live for members only on Thursday, as well as live on Twitch, doing more art, painting some of your animals. So if you are a Patreon of 5 or more for this month and for the month of December, please send me a picture of your pet. It can be your friend's pet. It could be your mom's pet. It's fine. Like, I'm not that picky about it. And I will be doing Pokemonification of your pet the same way I did in both those videos. If you're curious about what that is about, please go and check out either the speed paint or the 2-hour full one if you're interested, or find me on Twitch on Thursday. We'll be live doing that some more. We have Dumb Feck Friday coming on Friday, and we get a double header. So I'm going to be giving you all a lovely Thanksgiving gift for our American friends and their Thanksgiving. We are doing Chowder with Crowder. So this is going to be our first annual Chowder with Crowder, where we refuse to talk about Steven Crowder at any other point during the year. So we talk about him once a year on Thanksgiving while we eat comfort food. So that will be on Friday. Following that, we will have Manya joining us, and we will be taking a look at the Amber Heard open letter, which is going to be a big ol' yikes, as well as taking a look and a catch-up on our friend Dr. Charlotte Proudman. I'm not looking forward to that. Well, I am looking forward to that. There's also more stuff coming down the pipeline, so please like and subscribe and hit the bell and stuff, and share. Do me a favor and do the share. Today, I am just here to gush and talk about something that I'm happy about instead of something that makes me angry, which is what I'm usually here to talk about. Most of the time I'm talking about things that are depressing, but not today. It is not this day. We got this lovely, lovely, lovely expose of the king, the myth, the legend, Brendan Fraser, and I'm so happy to talk about it because I love this man so goddamn much. He is so wholesome. He is so lovely. I love his hat. I love his attitude. Last time we talked about him, we were following what had happened in his career or what had happened to his career and what had happened to him between what had gone on with his injuries as well as what had gone on with his involvement with studios, as well as what had gone on with his kids. And it was heartbreaking, and it was fantastic. Like, it was so wonderful to hear a story from his perspective. So now we're catching up with the man and seeing where he's been and how he's made his way back into Hollywood, which is, if that's what he wants, I am happy. I don't care what this man decides to do with his life. If he wants to just hang out on his ranch forever and never be in another movie again, I just want him to be happy. That's all I want. And that does seem to be the case. This is going to be a happy update stream. If you're curious to know about those other videos, though, or the other video, though, of me just gushing about Brendan Fraser, it's in the archive somewhere. Go find it. I'll probably put a link in the description once this one's over. So, no, I don't want to marry him. I just think he's lovely. How Brendan Fraser made it all the way back. There and back again by Brendan. I'm so happy. When GQ last met him, Brendan Fraser was speaking candidly for the first time about his supposed disappearance from Hollywood. Now, 4 years later, he's an Oscar favorite. Yes, for the movie Whale. And a man reckoning in real life with the kind of comeback you only see in the movies. For the past few years, Brendan Fraser has been attending fan conventions. Maybe a star with a different level of vanity or self-regard wouldn't talk about this fact because it could be seen as embarrassing or humbling, but Fraser is not that star. He shows up, shakes hands, signs autographs, talks about the past, shares table space with guys like Sheen Austin from Lord of the Rings and The Goonies. Fraser started doing this, he told me, quote, to get over myself. because I thought either it's not something I would do or I didn't want to put myself in a place where I was vulnerable in front of everyone. Oh my god. We do this thing where we put people on a pedestal and it like it's not healthy for those people, right? Like the reason I enjoy Brendan Fraser so much is because he is able to do conventions. He's able to go out and meet people. He does not care. Oh, Sean Astin, sorry. He does not have that inflation. He's not like an untouchable, out of reach star. He is a human being and he personifies it so well and with so much grace that it ought to be something that other actors and actresses aspire to. Like your Robert Downey Jr. should be, in my opinion, should be able to do these kinds of things. Right? Should be able to go, like, should be treated like a human, should be able to go to the supermarket, should be able to go and do whatever the hell he wants, right? This is what it should be like. But then he went to a Comic-Con in London. This was in 2019. Part of it, he admits, is that he was getting paid. Part of it was that after a rough decade, he suddenly felt the desire to get back out there. Quote, "I wanted to see the people," Fraser said. But even now, during a year in which Fraser has quite improbably become an Oscar frontrunner for his performance in Darren Aronofsky's? I can't read that. I'm got a 62 IQ. The Whale, a performance that has reminded audience of just how great Fraser once was and how great he was once supposed to be. He is still showing up at conventions. And like that's one of the things that's so super cool about this is that he went from being nowhere to within like 5 years being like front runner for an Oscar. And that's like that just goes to show you that hey, the guy had talent at the time and was getting typecast a lot. And then he's gone and he just shows up and is just like, "Yeah, I'm just here to win an Oscar and then I'm going to snuff you all. Don't worry, we'll get there." Because this is where he becomes true king. We're not at true king yet. And what he's found is people will line up to see him. Some of them ask about The Mummy, the franchise Fraser starred in from 1999 to 2008. Would he consider doing another one? Yes. So, some of them want to discuss obscure plot points from Doom Patrol, the superhero TV series Fraser acted in for HBO Max. Some come because they see in Fraser an actor who was a fixture of the biggest movies of the 1990s and the early 2000s. Back, the star of School Ties and Encino Man and Looney Tunes Back in Action. Okay, all right. If you're remembering Brendan Fraser for his performance in Looney Tunes Back in Action, first off, hilarious. Second off, I'm sorry for you. Third off, he's also amazing in that movie. And Steve Martin is also in that movie, and it's probably funnier and better than you remember because Brendan Fraser plays the stunt double for Brendan Fraser, so he also plays himself as a snooty asshole, and it's amazing. Mm, mm, mm. Some ineffable connections with their youth. Quote, "In their words, he told me, they say I was their childhood." Aww. Aww. I bought The Mummy Returns on cassette during my grade 8 grad trip to Quebec. And in some, Fraser has learned to recognize a more specific kind of connection. Quote, I can spot someone across the room who I know has something to say, something to share, who has had something that happened, someone who hurt them, end quote. Aww. They come to him and they divulge their secrets in what Fraser calls, quote, a moment of glorious honesty. Aw. And what he does is he holds that person's hand. He says, it's actually possible to ask for help. Quote, I do want them to know, Fraser told me, that if they admire or esteem me for whatever special reason, that if that kind of thing had happened to me, it could happen to anyone too. And we're all just people. And that is what makes me love this man. We are all just music. We're all just people. Sorry, I was reading side chat. VHS, cassette. Listen, VHS and cassette are the same thing. One has music on it, one has video on it. They're the same. It's a cassette. It's a video cassette. That's what we called them. Did you not call them that there? We called them VHS or we called them video cassettes. I got old. Hi, Mom. Perhaps like the valuable men and women at fan conventions, you are aware of what Fraser is referring to here. Perhaps you have no idea. The story briefly. Oh good, we're getting a brief. So if you are curious about more in depth, we did a different video on this, so you can go and find that. Yeah, tape and VHS. Whatever. The story. Don't bring me down, guys. I'm having a good time. The story, briefly, is this. A few years ago, Fraser sat down and relayed to a journalist a series of things he had not previously talked about in public. He talked about the ways in which his body had failed him after years of doing stunts on film sets. He talked about the reasons that had led him to step back from Hollywood, or that had led Hollywood to step back from him. He still wasn't quite sure which it was. And he shared a startling allegation that a once powerful man named Philip Burke, a former president and member of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the organization that stages the Golden Globes, had groped and assaulted Fraser at a 2003 luncheon at a Beverly Hills hotel. Burke disputes Fraser's account. The experience, Fraser said then, quote, made me retreat. He felt, he said, like, quote, something had been taken away from him, end quote. The incident had colored his life ever since in ways that sometimes felt small and sometimes felt very big indeed. The article in which he disclosed all of this was published in a March 2018 issue of GQ, and online, the story quickly became the most read in the history of the magazine. It was an improbable phenomenon, one of those articles that goes viral in a way that defies expectation or even explanation. No, the explanation is that everybody loved Brendan Fraser and always did. Like, he never, like, he grabbed our hearts and he held onto them, and even though he was gone, everybody was like, oh, we still love you, man. We respect you enough to go. The same kind of thing. I don't know if Rick Moranis has the same type of following, but he's got the same kind of, like, in my brain, it's the same kind of scenario where shit happened in his life and he had to go away from Hollywood, but he will always, like, just be, like he's always been awesome. So if he ever decides that he's gonna come back and do stuff, which I have heard talk that might be the case, you have any idea how much I would love to see a movie that has both Brendan Fraser and Rick Moranis in it? That'd be amazing. Amazing! And Smitty and me are on the same page right now. Same page. Same page. This is a and then continues to be wildly circulated years later. This is a strange thing to talk about with Fraser or write about here because I was the journalist he spoke to for the piece. Good job, sir, and or madam, or neither, or wherever you fall. But we found there was no way for us to have a conversation in 2022 without talking at least a little about the last time we met. Look at this guy's baller ass. Can we get Keanu Reeves too? Can we get Keanu Reeves, Rick Moranis, and Brendan Fraser in a movie? And can it be like some like crazy road trippy across Canada, like John Candy styled movie, because that would be fucking awesome. Because are they not all Canadian in some way? Like, I'm pretty sure Brennan has dual citizenship. He's American Canadian. Keanu Reeves is Canadian. And I'm pretty sure, is Rick Moranis not Canadian as well? I'm not 100% sure on Rick Moranis. God. Anyway. Look at how cool this looks. Sweet looking outfit. Noir cowboy. After the story came out, Fraser told me, quote, I heard from college friends, people I hadn't worked with or seen going back 30 years of my career. One day he got an email informing him that he was trending on Twitter, and I was like, oh, my god, oh, fuck, what have I done now? And it was people saying they like me, and they referenced that piece, and I was like, is this good? Is this problematic? I don't know. What did I do to earn this? We love you. Everybody loves you. You're an amazing, wholesome human being, and that everybody loves you. That you earned it by being awesome and consistently awesome. Ugh. Hey, listen, if all three of those men were to stop by my house, I would just serve them food. That would be what I would do. I would just be like, what would you boys like to eat? Tell me what you want. Here's my D&D cookbook. What would you want? You guys want to play some cards? You guys want to play D&D while you're here? God, or just, here's some beer. That would just be fun. I wouldn't be able to handle it. I would just be like, I'm in the kitchen. I can't talk to anybody. I have dishes to do. The experience, he said, was mostly positive, but it was also complicated. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. You alright, buddy? You doing okay? I've got a haircut. You might be able to tell from his looking a little bit less scruffy. He's not all the way done his haircut, but his butt has been trimmed up. Around his ears is trimmed up now. He's still limping a little bit. He's not feeling that great yet, but you doing okay, buddy? No? Alright. Complicated. He admitted something very personal in a very public way, and the revelations had traveled. Yeah. Quote, I think the feeling that I have is, this is a hard one to describe, and not to be vulgar, but it's like, I've seen you naked. Fraser said, it's like people know what you look like, they know the story about you. But he said mostly he found telling his story to be liberating. It was a weight removed. Look at, he looks so much better. Look at how much help, like, he just looks like he's doing better in general. And I cannot be happier about this. And no, I'm not putting on the 21-minute video, although I will gush about that by myself later. Maybe I'll do that in the Discord if you guys are interested. Consider becoming a member or a patron if you would like to join me for that. In The Will, Fraser plays a 600-pound writing instructor named Charlie, who is approaching the end of his life and who is desperate to connect with his daughter before he dies. Fraser is wary about overstating the similarities between himself and Charlie, but there are ways in which Fraser saw himself in the part. One of them was in the simple fact of Charlie's sincerity. He tells his students, just tell me something honest. This is a pursuit for authenticity, and once they do, it's liberating. That's such a wholesome message. God, why is this man so wholesome? Ah, God, I can't handle. Okay, I am not the nicest person on the planet. And there is something about just being a friendly, lovely, wholesome person that I guess I'm envious of. That it's just to be able to be and feel that open and honest in such a public venue is just like, I don't know if that's something I could ever do. I try to be authentic, but I also know that I find myself having to cater my words so that people understand what I'm trying to say. So in doing that, I feel like maybe I lose a little bit of the authenticity to myself, but it helps other people understand me better so that it's more authentic for them than it actually is for me, which is really, really weird. maybe I'm wrong about describing this, but it's a bizarre feeling. Anyway, oh, he's so wholesome. I can't be this wholesome. I'll never be wholesome like this. I'm too ruined as a human. Ah. Anyway. Fraser has already been almost universally praised for the performance he gives in the movie, and in turn that praise has begun to build into a narrative that Hollywood loves, a comeback. This is true. Here was a guy who was a leading man, who was beloved and who then seemed to disappear, and who now, after years in the wilderness or at the edges of other people's movies, is back at the center of things where he belongs. Thank you, author. Where he fucking belongs, as long as he wants to be there. Listen, I'm not into forcing people who are famous to be famous and be in the center of shit if they don't want to be. If people want to be left alone, leave them the hell alone. But if he wants to be here, yes, I'm here for it. I just want him to be happy. He deserves it. Fraser has a few reactions to this narrative, all of them complex. That's fair. But on some baseline level, he is there with us, marveling at his return. Nicked up, battered, dented, but still here. Oh, my heart. Like the rest of us, I like people, quote, I like people feeling like they're getting to know me again, Fraser said, because we've all grown up a little older together. At the fan conventions, Fraser told me people often say, welcome back, good that you're back, I'm glad to see you back, and I say thank you, and some of them even go, we've missed you, where have you been? You know, like almost letting me know that I disappointed them, and their first thing out of their mouth is, the first thing out of my mouth is, I was never that far away. God! I don't know if I've talked about this before on streams, but there were like, every so often I will go back and I'll watch like Bedazzled, or like I'll go in and I'll watch like George of the Jungle, and I always tell everybody to watch George of the Jungle because that movie is goddamn brilliant. And every time I watch one of these movies, I'm like, I hope he's doing good. I hope he's having a good life. And then he came back and I lost it. So happy. Oh, thank you, Rez. That's sweet. At the fan conventions, well, I just read that. Oh, I was never that far away. Oh, my God. Oh, he's so cute. He's wearing these expensive-ass clothes. Holy shit, dude. Goddamn. Goddamn. I mean, it was a photo shoot for this company, which makes this expensive clothing, so yeah, it makes sense. One day, in the fall, in Midtown Manhattan, Fraser was in the back of a Brooks Brothers being fitted for a suit. Several suits, in fact. He and Aronofsky? Maybe? I tried again. We're talking The Whale to a bunch of film festival, London, Mill Valley, Montclair, and Fraser needed clothes. Once upon a time, these would have been provided to Fraser well in advance, working as an actor long enough and attending enough premieres, and most fashion houses have your size on file and are eager to help you with whatever you might need. But for Fraser, it had been a while. Quote, a dog's year at least. Yeah, maybe two. I don't remember, honestly. And so he was starting from scratch. A sudden downpour had driven a few random customers in off the street, and so he shared the dressing rooms and as sales associates weaved back and forth with stuff for him to try on. About a month earlier, at a Venice Film Festival where The Whale had its world premiere, Fraser had been supplied with some suits, but they didn't fit, and so he had to stop at Rickard's, a department store in Greenwich, Connecticut, more or less on his way to the airport to pick up the outfit he ended up wearing to the event. God, this is he feels so relatable. Even though he's doing like these fantastical things, it's just like, they gave me suits and they didn't fit. Like, I've had that happen at my workplace. They measured me and they still gave me shit that didn't fit. A few days later, Fraser received a standing ovation at the festival for his performance in the film. A clip of the moment with Fraser in tears quickly went viral. The suit he is crying in, well, quote, crying is a word that's like you've injured yourself or there's some harm done. I think honestly, uh, I think I honestly was just smiling so hard that my face leaked. End quote. Is possibly one of the very few of off the rack garments in the theater. But this is what his life is like now, the same but different. He is himself, but in a crowd now for the first time in years, and in certain crowds for the first time ever. Quote, I'd never been in that microscope before, Fraser said, about what it was like to receive the ovation in Venice. It's powerful stuff. There was so before this comeback happened, I I found out that Brendan Fraser had a Twitter, and I was like, holy shit, I found his Twitter, and I looked at it, and the first thing I found were a latitude and longitude coordinate, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I looked it up, and it was like a Wendy's or a KFC in like butt fucking nowhere Iceland or Greenland, and I'm like, what is this? And I found out that Brendan Fraser on Twitter was just a shit poster, and I'm like, this is amazing. But I guess it was because he was also doing some filming in that area. This was right when he first started to make appearances again. I was just like, amazing. Nothing makes me happier than finding out like a famous person has a good sense of humor and likes to actually just kind of chill. Like, they're just a chill person. Because, you know, we're all just people, right? We took a car to Grand Central and wandered through the clouds of commuters asking for directions along the way until we found the Grand Central Oyster Bar. Fraser said his mother's father used to come here for lunch back in the 1920s. It had been a while since we'd seen each other. I thought he had a kind of lightness and ease that had not been much in evidence when we last met. I'm in a really good place, he said to me when we sat down. That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, I like to think I'm pretty approachable, right? And like this just feels approachable. Some of this was the whale, he said, and some of it was the fan conventions, and some of it was the fact that even before the whale, he'd been doing interesting stuff, playing a bagman in Steve Soderbergh movie No Sudden Move, playing a defense lawyer in Martin Scorsese's forthcoming Killer of the Flower Moon. On Killers, he said he'd had the uncanny experience of encountering Leonardo DiCaprio for the first time since they were both young and new to the business. Back then, quote, when he was, I think probably all of it, I don't know, 17, 16 maybe, he did Gilbert Grape. Fantastic movie, by the way. That's got Johnny Depp in it. What's he in Gilbert Grape? Johnny Depp with Leonardo DiCaprio movie. I saw it on the Paramount lot, end quote. Fraser is a few years older than DiCaprio, and at that time was just starting his own accent in Hollywood. Quote, I think I had just been in school ties or something then, and I was like flummoxed, but I just wanted to tell him, here, here, that was incredible, and he repeated that to me. He remembered me. He said, you were the only guy who didn't treat me like a little kid. He volunteered me to that. That was meaningful. Oh, that's so sweet. It was a reminder that Fraser, too, had once been a bright young thing. Don't start with this. A kid from an itinerant family who became a leading man almost immediately after his arrival in Hollywood. He may be remembered for his big and broad and blockbustery roles now, but back then he was just one of a generation of actors, like his school ties co-stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Chris O'Donnell, vying for great parts with Fraser at the head of the pack. So here's the thing. What would have happened had Brendan Fraser not been out of Hollywood for so many years? Like, what would we have seen him in? Is it likely that we would have seen him play a Batman? Is it likely that we would have seen him playing some role in The Matrix? is it likely that we could have seen, like, there's so many things. And the thing is like, although he was cast as a leading man and he was in a lot of comedies, his acting skill came through fantastically. So, like, there's subtle bits. Like, I recommend watching Blast from the Past and watching Bedazzled. Both of those are able to show, like, far more range than you think on the surface if you pay attention and look for some of, like, the crazy cues that go on and the way he's able to carry a scene. Quote, everybody was fighting one another to get to New York to read for Martin Brest, The Secret of a Woman, Fraser remembered. We were all looking for our next job. Throughout the 90s and early 2000s, Fraser played plenty of dramatic roles in Gods and Monsters with Ian McKellen and The Quiet American with Michael Caine, among others, but he had a knack for stunts and physical comedy and fall down, and eventually that was most of what he did. But then he and DiCaprio were again, all these years later, on the set with Scorsese. Quote, it was fascinating, and I felt like one of the apprentices in Michelangelo's workshop, Fraser said. A friend of Fraser's, John Kretzu, had shared a quote with Fraser before Venice, and Fraser told me he was repeating it to himself 7 or 8 times a day. Quote, I know not all that may be coming, but come what will, I'll go to it laughing. Aw. The quote, by coincidence or kismet, I don't know that word. What's this word? I'm going to look this word up. I like learning new words.
Kismet.
Kismet. Destiny or fate. I mean, I kind of figured that's what it meant, but I always like to double check these things. Kismet. Destiny or fate. Is a paraphrase of a line from Herman Melville's Moby Dick. Oh god, I haven't read Moby Dick in a long time. I don't even remember if I finished. I don't think I finished it. The same book, though not the same passage, that Samuel D. Hunter, the playwright who wrote both the stage and screen versions of The Whale, cited in the film. Quote, thinking that has just made me feel like, you know what I mean, I'm gonna enjoy whatever's coming, I'm gonna go to it laughing, and whatever happens after all, it was enough. It was enough. Ah. The plot of The Whale is simple. It takes place, more or less, in one room over the course of a single week. Fraser's Charlie is an English teacher giving lessons on Zoom with his camera off. He is clearly grieving something, and as the end of his life begins to rapidly approach, he aims to set things right with his conspicuously absent daughter, Sadie Sink, and ex-wife Samantha Morton. To play the role, Fraser wore hundreds of pounds of prosthetic. Quote, the weirdest thing was taking it off, Fraser said, describing the vertigo he'd get when he'd remove the suit. Yeah, I believe that. You, like, rebalance carrying all this weight, then all the weight suddenly comes off and your brain's like, oh shit, where are we? It was like coming off a boat and stepping on a dock. Yeah. The film is claustrophobic and tense and about a man in a very dire place, but it works because of Fraser, who is back at the center of a major movie for the first time in years. Charlie, despite his abject circumstance, has a kindness and decency and improbable optimism that will be familiar to anyone who has encountered Fraser before. That's it. That's the optimism, man. The wholesome optimism. You believe in Charlie because Fraser believes. Quote, once a leading man, always a leading man, Aronofsky told me. Quote, I really believe that. I think there's a quality to actors of his ilk. There's a magic in there that doesn't go away, especially if it hasn't had much time to shine. In 2008's The Wrestler, Aaron Crosby famously cast Mickey Rourke as his washed-up main character, also on the brink of death, also seeking to reunite with a daughter. The role earned Rourke an Oscar nomination. The parallels are not lost on Fraser, even if he doesn't totally see it in the same way. Quote, Mickey's role is about a guy who was addicted to fame, Fraser said. Well, we all know that Mickey gave the finger to Hollywood, and here he is coming back. Everybody loves a comeback from behind. Stand up on your own. Give it one last shot, you know. That works because I think we can all identify with it. Whether we can all do that in our lives or not, it's nice to see that fantasy on screen, end quote. And the thing is like, if you try and you put your all into something, sadly, for a lot of artists, that doesn't come to fruition until after you're dead. So, you know, rough. I'm trying to figure out how to categorize the way Fraser sounded when he said this. I think the best I can do is that he said it as if this is fantasy, coming from behind, of raising from the dead, was something very distant from the way Fraser sees himself. Oh, come on, give me a death is only the beginning quote. Come on, give. You're setting it up. Give it to me. This is something I struggled with at the Oyster Bar. I kept asking, how does this moment feel? And Fraser kept saying something to the effect of, it doesn't quite feel like any one thing at all. He was a father, a working actor. If that's all there ever was, it would have been enough. As for the whale, he said, quote, I don't know. He's content. He's content and happy, and he's happy with the way things are going, and whatever happens, what will be, and I'm going to be content and happy in my life. And that's all anybody can goddamn wish for, and that's all I could ever wish for this man. My God. Quote, I don't know if this is gonna give me some big redemption in my own life. Redemption for what? Listen, I don't know you personally, so I don't know what personal thing you may have done. But, like, redemption is a pretty strong word. I know that but it kind of gives you a look into how he sees himself. Like, he doesn't view himself as, like, this wholesome, great guy, optimistic guy. He views himself as somebody who probably, like, he failed and let people down. Even when people were like, oh my God, where have you been? He's like they're telling me I disappointed them. And it's like, no, everybody's just happy to see you. I don't know if this is going to give me some big redemption in my own life. I know that I'm proud of the work I did, and it's enough. It'll live on long after me, and that's good. The other stuff, maybe not so much. That'll live on too, but I think I just have to live for what's happening for me right now. Live in the moment. By other stuff, he of course means we'll pick one. George of the Jungle, yes. Encino Man, yes. Airheads, yes. Movies that are great in their own way and beloved, and which often involve Fraser bumping into things or falling down, or emerging dumbfounded from another universe entirely. Insert monkey bones here at the very bottom of the list. He is proud of these films. He should be. He also was maybe in some way trapped by them. Getting typecast in Hollywood does suck, yes. And when he couldn't do them anymore, Hollywood didn't offer him anything in return. Yeah, it do be like that. He got older, his appearance changed, along with his appetite for crashing into things. The work dried up. Maybe this is why he takes less joy in talking about his so-called comeback than the people who are rooting for him to do. He knows how fragile and random a career and life can be, how fundamentally out of control any of this was and still is. Oh. One gratifying thing about The Whale, Fraser said, is that it offered him a chance to work on terms that he felt like were his own again. Yeah, I can understand that. Quote, maybe it wasn't supposed to be doing stuff that was rough and tumble, fall down, go boom all my career, he said. Harrison Ford still makes this joke. I hear him doing it going, I get paid to fall down hard. That's his one-liner, and you know what? He's not wrong. I understand what it feels like to have that be your prime directive. But Fraser also knew he was capable of more, even if no one was giving him the opportunity, until recently, to show it. You can tell in those movies. You watch The Mummy. That movie is only as good as it is because of the chemistry between the two roles, and being able to, like, do that level of act. Like, it's so buyable. It's so good. It's so well acted. His, like, the mummy comes out, screams at him, and his response is, ah! And he just yells back at it. It's like, that's brilliant. It's so good. Because it's like, there's so many movies that you see like that where people don't identify with how the main character behaves. They're like, that's not like, nobody would do that. Nobody would act like that. But then you see Brendan Fraser doing it, and it's like, yeah, that's how most people would react to that. Why am I being chased by the undead? This is bullshit. It's amazing. It's great. Oh. Hollywood missed out because they weren't paying the fuck attention. Narrow-minded assholes. How dare they beat my boy into a corner. Charlie, Fraser said, quote, is the most physical role I've done. I have beat shit up and fallen down, been lit on fire, and thrown against walls, and that's fine. That was okay. I liked that. I had fun. Yeah, it put some chips in the paint. I mean, yeah, he had some serious back surgeries. But I'm still here, damn it. But this was probably the most heroic character I've ever played. One interesting thing about the performance and Fraser's emerging status as an Oscar favorite is that at film festivals now, they have begun to give him tributes. The first was in Toronto. Represent. Southern Canada. There was a gala dinner, and at the gala dinner, they played a montage of all of Fraser's screen work before handing him an award. Ah, yeah. He watched all the different versions of himself flicker across the screen. Quote, I saw this guy on stream with really wide eyes and different hair each time, Fraser said. And also, I think a little bit of, I hope they haven't found me out yet behind the eyes. And it was nice to see the reel that they played. It made me feel just a strong sense of affirmation. Good. He's been validated. Brendan Fraser, you are valid. Oh my god. But the feeling was completed too. There were years and years of Fraser's career left unannounced for. At Toronto, Fraser saw a golden boy with his shirt off, then he saw nothing at all before the reel played. Aronofsky told me he introduced Fraser afterward. He watched as the scenes from Fraser's past played, one after another, interspersed with clips from The Whale. Quote, and it was incredibly startling because there was such a purity and innocence to the roles he played in his 20s that's still there. But then there was just a grown man, and all of the complexities of that were suddenly on the screen for the first time, and you sit there and you go, this is the same human being. And it was kind of shocking because there's a huge chunk of his life that's missing from the screen. That's so crazy. Yeah, that would be like such a stark just... Had he been wronged? Yes. Had something important been taken from him? Maybe. Arguably. These weren't the right questions, Fraser told me. The question was, how do you account for something that could have been? Yes. Oh, like I said earlier, what would have happened if Hollywood didn't fuck Brendan Fraser over? Like, what would we have seen him in? Where would he, how would he have developed as an actor? Like, what crazy movies would he, who would he be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because that still needs to happen. I want a superhero Brendan Fraser. Actually, to be fair, I want Dr. Doom Brendan Fraser, please. Thank you. Because I think he can do better than the role, than the very... As good as all of the Marvel heroes are, there is a cookie cutter way that they're sort of developed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is good. Like, that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that to be critical. I'm saying that as just kind of a fact of the structure of the movies and the overarching story. But to see him get to play the bad guy, to get to see him develop somebody like Doctor Doom. Oh my god, the episodes that he was in Scrubs. Oh god, no. You want to know if Brendan Fraser can act? Yeah, watch the Scrubs episodes with Brendan Fraser. Oh, holy shit. In The Whale, Fraser continued, Samantha Morton plays this guy's ex-wife, and her lament is what could have been, and how it was, and then it went wrong. And that's what she's sad for, but there's no accounting. Like, if there's a pneumatic, or how would you compensate for something that didn't become It just never did, so it's not quantifiable. Yep. Then he invited me to his house, an hour or so north of New York City, to have a bonfire. You guys want to light some shit on fire, make some s'mores, and drink some beer, have some snacks, marshmallows? You want some weenies? We'll cut them into little spider legs. There is a lake in front of Fraser's property, more of a pond really, covered by lily pads. On a brilliant fall day, we sat by it as he built a fire. I'm suddenly very jealous. When I was here last, we'd gone together to visit a horse named Picas that Fraser had rescued from the set of a TV show he worked on. Yes, we talked about that last time. Fraser had brought him back for his eldest son, Griffin, who is now 20, and rated on the autism spectrum, and who found spending time with the horse to be soothing. But Picasso had passed, Fraser told me. Quote, he was a dapple gray, and a veterinarian told me that they're genetically prone to melanoma. Little bumps. Like he always had little marbles under the surface. So if they were on the surface, then they were definitely in him too. And I had to put him down. He was a good guy. Ugh. For his son, Fraser said, death is abstract, but they talk about Picasso frequently. Griffin has a ritual, Fraser said. Quote, he goes through the names of all the people he knows, and he keeps a tabs on everyone that way. Oh, that's so sweet. Haltingly, we talked about the last time we had met and the story that resulted from that encounter. You wanted to know if I had a theory about why people wanted to read the story called Whatever Happened to Brendan Fraser. Because everybody wanted to know what happened to you. People love you. They wanted you. I hadn't seen you or heard an update on you, and they wanted to know that you were okay and living your best life. And then they got this fucking story about everything that had happened, and everybody went, no, how do we process this? Quote, my hope is that I can be recognized for my professional efforts rather than the trope of the comeback kid being written off and then coming back. Both. You only become a comeback kid because of your professional efforts and because of your work and trying so hard. Oh my god. Monkey Bone 2 when? How dare you? Quote, why do you think, Fraser asked, or should I be the one answering that? He said for the purposes of journalism, yes, it should probably be him. Why do you think? I guess because there was an unanswered question and that answered it. I guess my absence was felt and I didn't know it. It's humbling. Oh. He said that some of what we discussed then was a little hard to talk about even today. Quote, I would admit to feeling a little bit of a heart palpitation discussing this with you right now, but it's okay, because my hope is that I can be recognized at this time in my life and career for my professional efforts rather than for the trope of a comeback as being a standard in culture, sports, coming from behind and being written off and then coming back. Why is he so fucking eloquent, man? Why? Fraser kept getting up to tend the fire. I asked if finally sharing what had happened all those years ago had brought him a measure of peace or changed his relationship to the incident itself. Yeah, it did, Fraser said. That doesn't mean I don't get triggered every now and then, but then I come hanging out back here. He gestured at the archery target on the lawn in the same place it was last time I was here 4 years ago. Quote, and I'll send a few arrows down the range and things will feel better. Ah. But even this was a more complicated story than was maybe convenient to tell. After the article containing Fraser's allegations against Burke and the Hollywood Foreign Press Association came out, the organization issued a statement saying, in part, quote, the HFPA stands firmly against sexual harassment and the type of behavior described in the article. End quote. The HFPA promised an inquiry, and Fraser was interviewed by an independent investigator. That's something. They fucking did something. So that's good. That's a start. Do I expect, like, any charges or anything to come through about this? No, but the fact that they did an investigation, I'm already a little bit impressed. I didn't expect that. The organization ultimately came back to him and proposed issuing a joint statement that, according to Fraser, would say, quote, although it was concluded that Mr. Burke inappropriately touched Mr. Fraser, the evidence supports that it was intended to be taken as a joke and not as a sexual advance, end quote. Burke remained a voting member of the HFPA. When I asked him in 2018 if he faced any disciplinary action from the organization, Burke told me none at all. Okay, so they did an investigation and then there was no accountability for anything. And, okay, so I will say that it's not fair to reprimand or punish somebody for something you can't prove, and allegations or one person coming forward to say that this thing happened to them isn't alone enough. You would have to have a much larger, like, it really just depends on how deep this investigation went and what their intention was. The thing is if this guy is still doing stuff like that, the investigation should be done thoroughly in a way that would expose that, and it sounds like they only investigated the one incident, which probably really only involved talking to both of them and then being like, PR stunt. But that's neither here nor there. Fraser refused to sign the joint press release. Good for you, Mr. Fraser. Good for you. And that's where it was left. Yeah, sometimes things don't get resolved in a satisfying way. Sometimes people don't go after others legally. Sometimes people don't make big stinks forever about stuff, although things might come up as jokes once in a while. Sometimes you accept that this is the end and this is as far as this conversation or interaction between these two people actually goes, so that there's not really any kind of satisfying resolution for the person who was wronged, or any kind of real recompense or responsibility ever taken by the individual in the wrong. And that's life. And so you sort of just have to accept that and hope that you can do the best to move on that you can. And I mean, that's what I try to do for most things when things turn out that way. Despite Fraser's public allegations about the member of the HFPA, the organization continued on exactly as it had before. Quote, I knew they would close ranks, Fraser said. Yeah, I knew they would kick the can down the road. I knew they would get ahead of the story. I knew that I certainly had no future with the system as it was. Then, in 2021, a Los Angeles Times investigation revealed the HFPA, which is notoriously secretive, had no black members. The paper's reporting also revealed numerous allegations of ethical and financial conflicts among the organization's members. In response, multiple film studios and publicity firms in Hollywood announced they would no longer work with the HFPA. Burke was publicly expelled from the organization in April of 2021 after sharing an article decrying Black Lives Matter as a racist hate movement. In an email to the membership, ultimately NBC, the HFPA's broadcast partner, declined to broadcast the 2022 Golden Globes. The HFPA staged an award show anyway with no talent in attendance. But in response to the number of reforms proposed by the organization, including an expansion of the membership and new rules against accepting gifts, NBC said in September it was bringing back the show in 2023. Golden Globes will be aired live in January, reinstating the show to the awards calendar in a usual spot ahead of the Academy Awards. In any other year, at any other time, all of this wouldn't necessarily have much to do with Brendan Fraser. This was a chapter in his life he thought he had dealt with and put away. But sometimes life has a way of coming around. But it has been a season of return for Fraser. His past has come back to him a lot for one reason or another, and so perhaps it was inevitable that all this would come back to The Whale. Come back to. The Whale is an Oscar frontrunner. Fraser is not just favored to be nominated in the Best Actor category. He's currently favored to win. In a normal award season, that would mean Fraser would very likely be nominated at the Golden Globes as well. I asked if he would go if invited. And here the king. Quote, I have more history with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association than I have respect for the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Fraser said. No, I will not participate. Ah, that must have been so satisfying to be like, oh, really? Oh, really? Now all this? Okay. Yeah, clearly your investigation was worth anything. Good job, champ. No, I will not attend. Giant double middle finger fuck you. And that is the king. That is the king. I have more history than respect. Ah, bless. Praise be. All hail the king. Amazing. He was speaking very quietly. I had to lean forward just to hear him over the wind moving through the trees above us. Quote, it's because of the history that I have with them, and my mother didn't raise a hypocrite. You can call me a lot of things, but not that. God damn. Stand by your principles. Amazing. Amazing. I hope that felt good. He wasn't exactly excited to relive any of it, he said, but he also was going to do what he thought was right. Good for you. If even 50% of the population had this level of fucking integrity, hell, even if 50% of the online personalities out there had this level of fucking integrity, God, the world would be such a different place. Even if the effects were wide rippling as they may yet prove to be. Life's got a way. Last time, after Fraser told his story about what happened with the HFPA, the Golden Globes proceeded as if he had not said anything at all. And there's your problem. They should, that should have been at least one enough in instigating factor to spur on an investigation, and that investigation should have spurred more questions, which should have, this all should have happened in 2018, not 2021. If he had not said anything at all, with a full complement of nominees in attendance. Like, nobody who was invited to the Golden Globes, gave two shits about what he had to say. Quote, I think it was because it was too prickly or sharp edge or icky for people to want to go first and invest emotionally in the situation. Fraser said, would that happen again? It was the same story that Fraser told before. Would it play out differently this time? I asked Fraser if he believed in any of the HFPA's announced reforms. Quote, at the moment, no. Maybe time will tell if they're going to. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. That's fair. That's fair. I'd be skeptical. The organization still had never apologized, Fraser said. The HFPA disputes this and says the organization has apologized twice, and though Beck has acknowledged writing a letter about the incident to Fraser, Burke told me in 2018 that the apology admitted, quote, no wrongdoing. The usual, if I've done anything to upset Mr. Fraser, it was not intended and I apologize. Yeah, so they don't give two shits. Fuck you guys. Hey, this is a call out. Don't watch the Golden Globes this year. Fuck them. Fuck them. Dare you treat my boy this way. If the HFPA did attempt to make amends, Fraser said, he said, the apology was a non-apology. So, then why are they still, the guy they got to do it is saying it's a non-apology, then why the hell are they being like, well, we said we were sorry? An apology admitted no wrongdoings. Then it's not an apology. If you don't admit that you did something wrong and understand what you did wrong, and, make any steps to either rectify the damage as much as possible or make sure that thing doesn't happen in the future, then it's not an apology. Those are what's necessary for an apology. God damn! Like and subscribe and hit the bell because this might come up on the 2nd of December a little bit more. That's probably going to be a dumpster fire. If the HFPA did attempt to make amends, Fraser said, quote, according to rules of engagement, it would be my responsibility to take a look at it and make a determination at that time if that became the situation. And it would have to be, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Sincere? This man is on fire. I would want some gesture of making medicine out of poison somehow. I don't know what that is, but that would be my hope. But it's not about me. Fraser said he was far from the only person who felt wronged. There were others who identified with or shared his story in ways big and small. So whatever the HFPA did, quote, I would expect that it would be something that would be meaningful for them too, end quote. This man, you notice here he's not speaking for anybody else, but he is taking other people into consideration. Like, so there's a really stark difference there. So when we looked at Bethesda and we looked at Margie's post, they were speaking for people. Hell, even Matt Dillahunty, when we looked at him leaving the ACA, they were speaking for people. In this case, Brennan says what he would be looking for in general, nothing specific, sincerity, but he also goes ahead and says it would be good, it would have to be meaningful for them too, but he does not speak for them and say what would be meaningful to them as a whole or all those other people. At no point does he speak for anybody else. He just says that he acknowledges those people, acknowledges that they matter, and acknowledges that they need to be represented themselves as well in whatever does take place, if anything. Brilliant! This is how you do this. Oh my god, don't speak for other people. You can support other people without speaking for them. Holy fuck. Okay. Sorry, I got off track a little bit there. But otherwise, he fully planned to campaign for the film, for an Oscar, for whatever recognition he and The Whale could garner. Fraser said, I owe it to myself, I owe it to the filmmakers, I know I owe it to those fans who paid to come and see me and stand in line in the sun and, you know, all of that. I owe it to my kids, this is my shot. I love this picture. Fraser got out a cast iron skillet, because of course he did, heated it up on the fire, because of course he did, and began cooking, because of course he did. He wrapped corn in foil, because of course he did, and put it in the skillet, because of course he did. Then he pulled the corn out and added vegetables and al pastor. He'd bought at the local market out here, because of course he did. Ah! Listen, PR ain't that hard when you're sincere and honest. Quote, you like a little char? He asked. Yes. Yes! It was clear from his ease around the fire that this was something he had done before. Yeah. The fall light slanted across the afternoon. Quote, if we weren't here, the deer would be, like passing back and forth, Fraser said. This is their parkway. Ah. His past 2 years had been surreal and difficult, as they were for many people, he said. Yeah, the past couple of years have been kind of a yikes for everybody. At the dawn of the pandemic, he'd lost a friend, a manager at the local hardware store. He's friends with the manager at his local hardware store. He's sitting there pulling out a kebab and a skillet and being like, fire corn. I fucking love this man so much. Sad about that he lost his friend. Quote, Griffin loved him. Every time he would go in the store, Griffin would go and hug this guy, and he'd be like, quote, always time for love, always time for a hug. Right around the same time, Fraser's mentor, Hal Ryder, passed away in Seattle. Fraser's horse died. He'd been talking to Aronofsky about The Whale, but then the pandemic put that conversation on hold. Quote, I didn't know I had the job for about maybe 8 months, 6 months. Oh, yikes, that sucks. It was an uncertain, unhappy time. Oh, God. Yeah. Yes, that sucks. Even as he completed work on No Sudden Move and began contemplating what might come next, at some point he was offered Batgirl, a superhero film. Maybe he'd do that? Question mark. Who was gonna be in Batgirl? He said that when he told his middle son Holden, who is 18, about The Whale and how it was being financed and distributed by A24, the very cool New York-based film studio, quote, he was like, what? No way, really? Like, that's how sophisticated the cinema mind is in a lot of these teenagers now. Then I told him I was going to do Batgirl, and he was like, ugh. So I was like, should I do it or not? And he goes, absolutely. And I go, okay, well, what's the upshot and what's the downshot? And he goes, the upshot is they always win. They always win. Marvel, DC movies, they always win. Everybody sees them. Even when they lose, they win. They win. Do it. Yes, absolutely. Even if it sucks, it's awesome. Do it. Hell, we all know what happened. Yo, his 18-year-old son's a fucking baller manager. Hell yeah, this kid knows what he's talking about. Dude, I'm gonna go ask Holden for advice next time I'm gonna go take a job doing anything. Fuck. What happened, of course, is that Fraser signed on and they shot the film. Warner Brothers decided to shelve the movie. Fraser was disappointed. He said mostly on behalf of his lead actor, Lacey Grace. Quote, I mean, she's a dynamo. She worked... God, that's a word. Showing his age a little bit with that one. She worked really hard, too. It was just heartbreaking that upper management could be so cold to just shit-can it for a tax write-off. Oh, that shit. Fuck you, Warner Brothers. Anyway, Fraser finally got the text from Aronofsky saying he had the job in The Whale, and then right before the film started shooting, he contracted COVID. Aronofsky or Fraser? Fraser. Oh, no. This was before vaccines were widely available and Fraser became sick. No, he figured that was the end of The Whale for him. Quote, I thought I was gonna lose my job. I thought I was gonna fucking die too. But I thought, I know how these things go. The bonding company will go, ooh, and back out, or I won't pass an insurance checkup, end quote. He sat and watched the lake we were currently sitting beside ice over and imagined all the ways that things could go wrong. Oh, man. Fraser has had some experience seeing opportunities disappear. He'd had a glimpse of something that he wanted very badly, something he thought he could perhaps do, even do really well with. Oops. Now he began making peace with the fact that it wasn't meant to be. Oh, but to his surprise, the worst thing did not happen. Aronofsky sent Fraser a care package covered for him, and Fraser waited out his sickness, and they shot the film, and here Fraser was now. The day was cooling off, and we stood up to go inside. Can we please give Aronofsky a round of applause for being the fucking man in all this situation? Like, the bro! He's done it! He's done it! Ha! I wonder if Brendan Fraser's life will be made into a documentary one day. Like, just with the way these interviews read, and like how like happenstance for the Golden Globes, and like I want nothing but the best for him, and I want nothing but success in the future. I'd be curious to see if that's ever going to be the case, or if that will be the case. It might even be the case before he dies, because that's a thing that happens nowadays. People make documentaries about people that are still living. Oh. Fraser said, I would like to point out that I am not immune to toxic fandom. like everybody can be like a toxic style of fan. I like to think that I keep my personal appreciation for this person contained to my own space and area. Like, I don't message this guy. I follow him on Twitter, but I've never like tweet. Like, I don't like. I think I tweeted at him like once or twice when I found out that he was a shit poster. I don't like follow him around, and I don't expect anything from him, and I don't like. There's no like parasocial relationship there. I know I don't know him. I know I'm not friends with the guy. Fraser said as we walked up the lawn to his house that he had absolutely nothing lined up next, just film festivals and fan conventions. He'd done a comedy, Brothers, in Atlanta last year with Peter Dinklage and Josh Brolin. Quote, but other than that, I've been traveling. It's to go to a convention in Midwest Florida, wherever. Fraser told me that sometimes at cons, when he and Sean Astin get to talking, Astin likes to do a little speech in which he compares the work they do at fan conventions to that of ministers. Quote, he starts ministering to people, Fraser said, imitating his friend. But Fraser said he'd come to understand what Astin was getting at. These are often vulnerable people that they are meeting. They are seeking a cathartic moment. They are seeking to connect. Quote, and you want to somehow make them feel like whatever brought you to this place that made you feel like you do right now, you're gonna be better for having just encountered me. And it's going to be okay because we both made it here today, you know? Aww. That's the props to the accreditation here. I do want to leave this up on the screen for a second just because like the photography here is fantastic. The writing of this is amazing. This behind the scenes. He's so cute. Look at this. What a great this is a fantastic photo. This is an amazing photo. I absolutely love it. Ugh. Ah, the mummy. Bye-bye, Benny. But yeah, 10 out of 10. This article was amazing. This article is fantastic. Thank you so much, GQ. I think if it wasn't for GQ managing to and Zach Barron for actually managing to get the initial interview with him back in 2018, I don't think we would ever even be here. Prop to Aronofsky, who stuck with Brennan for The Whale. Suck a dick, Golden Globes. I'm not gonna be watching this year. If I was going to watch it in the future, it's just gonna be I'm gonna make sure I get it for free, and I'm gonna shit talk them the whole time because they can all suck a goddamn dick. If you go to the Golden Globes and you haven't like checked in with this man as somebody who matters in Hollywood, and if you are somebody who matters in Hollywood, fuck you too, because you should probably, you know, get your shit together and get your head screwed on right, and you should all stand up for each other from getting taken advantage of by fucking shitty ass companies doing shit for. Oh, also, by the way, fuck you, Warner Brothers, for not putting. You were gonna give us fucking Brendan Fraser in a Batgirl movie, and we didn't get it. You might have actually had a movie duo. You went with fucking Amber Heard. God, fuck. Why does Warner Brothers make all of the worst decisions literally ever? They dumped Johnny Depp for Amber Heard, and then they didn't release Brendan Fraser Batgirl? Why? What is wrong with you? Who's in charge of Warner Brothers right now? Are you insane? Have you lost your good goddamn mind? Do you have any? It's been shelved. It still exists. Give the movie. Do you want to make money? Give movie, please. Thank you. Big please. I could gush about this man forever. Go watch a movie with Brendan Fraser in it. Don't watch the Golden Globes. Fuck those people. support the actor by going to a festival or seeing the whale for yourself, or going to a convention. If you see him out there, tell him I say hi. He has no idea who I am, and I kind of hope it remains that way. This has been a lot of fun. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you for joining me on my Brendan Fraser appreciation stream. Puck, yeah, I know you're having a bad time. Oh, the slow lay down. Your leg's hurting. Oh. I'm gonna get on out of here. Thank you all for coming. This has been great. This is a lovely gush session. I'll see you all next time. Okay, I love you. Bye.